It's our very last country in all of Latin America. Where's the time gone? And welcome back to Cliffieland. This is week in country number 189 on our second attempt of cooking the food of every single country in the world. Tonight we're up to the nation of Venezuela. Venezuela, located in South America on the shores of the Caribbean Sea, is bordered by Colombia, Guyana, and Brazil. And it is a beautiful country with a delicious cuisine and a fascinating history. Its cuisine is going to be a combination of its people's foods, which is going to be a mixture of the European, which in this case would be Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, and French, as well as the West African and the indigenous. And the cuisine varies throughout the nation, but you're going to find a lot of typical dishes. Predominantly, you can find dishes involving meats, which would be chicken, fish, beef, and pork. Fish more along the coasts, and some alternate meats further into the interior as well. One of the things that Venezuela is most known for food-wise is the arepa, which is sort of a cornmeal cake, which is made with masa, and it is shared with a number of its Latin American neighbors, particularly Colombia. And I believe we did an arepa back when we cooked Colombia. It's also similar, but not exactly the same, as the pupusa that we did in El Salvador, although there are some very distinct differences there. Don't get mad at me. In Venezuela, you'll find dishes involving any number of meats, as I said, as well as corn and rice and beans, and this is all kind of reflected in what we did last time, so let's take a look and see how things went when we tried things before. Well, 5 years ago on the Global Cooking Challenge, I managed to cook and stream across 2 nights, and on the first night I did something involving an arepa, which is called reina pepiada, which is a stuffed arepa with chicken salad inside. And it was very simple, very delicious. I served that with some plantain chips, which I managed to screw up really badly, but it was really great, and it was helped along by the fact that I already had leftover chicken from when I cooked Vanuatu the week before. We didn't have that this time around, plus I wanted to do something a little more involved than a sandwich. So what we're doing here tonight is what we did on the second night, which is called a pabellón, and a variation of that. Now, a pabellón, literally meaning a pavilion, is one of the national dishes of Venezuela, and it is also visually representative of that mixture we mentioned before, because it is several different dishes on one plate. It is a carne mechada, which is a shredded beef, and that is served with black beans, white rice, and in this case, plantains on the side. More on that in a moment. Now, the reason that that is considered a reflection of the nation is because it is a mixture of the different cuisines as well as a visual representation of the people. Brown of the meat for the indigenous people, the black of the black beans for the West African, and the white of the white rice for the European. On the matter of the plantains, that is one variation of it. There are lots and lots of different variations on the dish, some which involve alternate meats, say during Lent when you wouldn't be eating meat necessarily, but in this case it is a pabellón con barandas. Now, barandas literally means guardrails, and it's kind of a visual gag because that would mean that it's like guardrails on the side that keep the food from falling off the plate. It's something of a joke. Now, there are other variations of this, which is a variation of a lot of different things across Latin America, which would mean having a fried egg on top, which would make it a pabellón a caballo, which means on horseback. A lot of things with an egg on top are called on horseback because, you know, it's riding on top. It's a joke. But in any case, it was really delicious last time. We're looking forward to doing it this time, so we need to see what goes into tonight's series of dishes. First, for our carne mechada, for the beef, we'll need 2 pounds of flank steak, 8 cups of water, or enough to cover the beef, salt to taste, 1 stick of green onion, 1 peppermint or spearmint sprig, 1 or 2 sprigs of parsley, 1 or 2 sticks of celery, half an onion, and half a red bell pepper. And for the sofrito, and here the recipe is a little vague on preparation, 3 tablespoons of canola oil, 1½ onions sliced, 1½ bell peppers sliced, 1 garlic clove minced. We're going with 3 garlic cloves here. 3½ ajis dulces. That would be sweet habanero or yellow lantern chili peppers. We're going with sliced here. 2 tomatoes, which we have chopped, 1 or 2 sprigs of cilantro, which we've chopped roughly, ½ teaspoon of pepper, and 1 tablespoon of soy sauce. And then for the caraotas negras, or Venezuelan black beans, we'll need 5 cups of water, 1 cup of black beans, washed and strained, soaked overnight, anywhere between 5 and 12 hours. Very important. Half a red bell pepper, diced. Half a teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of canola oil, half an onion, we're going with diced here, 1.5 ajis dulces, that would again be a sweet habanero or yellow lantern chili, again diced, half of a head of garlic, and half a tablespoon of cumin. Then, for our arroz blanco venezolano, or Venezuelan white rice, we'll need 1 cup of white rice, 2 cups of water, half a teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of oil, we're going with canola oil here, 1 garlic clove minced, half a medium onion diced, 1/8 of a green bell pepper cut into strips, and 1/8 of a red bell pepper cut into strips. And finally, for our Venezuelan tajadas, or fried plantains, we'll need 1 ripe yellow plantain, 1 cup of vegetable oil, or as needed for frying, and, paper towels. That looks really good. Give yourself lots of time. Be sure to soak those beans overnight because that's not included in the cooking here. And there's also some variations that involve marinating the meat overnight, which we didn't have time for. But enough of that. We need to get cooking. Cut the flank steak into 2 to 4 pieces so they fit in your pot. In a large enough pot, place the flank steak and cover with enough water. Add the salt, green onion, mint, parsley, celery, onion, and bell pepper. Cover and cook for about 4 hours at medium heat until the steak softens. Be sure to check it often to make sure the water hasn't evaporated. If needed, add more. Cook for about 4 hours. Remove from the heat, take the steak out of the pot and place it in a baking sheet and let it cool for a little bit. You can use the remaining beef stock for other preparations. Once the beef is cool enough to handle, start shredding or pulling it. Be sure to pick out the fat and hard parts of the beef at this point. You may also want to cut it into smaller pieces, since we didn't. In a large enough pot, add the oil and saute the rest of the onion, the bell pepper, the garlic, and the sweet peppers for about 5 minutes. Add the beef to this sauté mixture and continue to sauté for about 3 minutes. Add the tomatoes, the pepper, the cilantro, and the soy sauce. Taste everything to make sure you don't need to add more salt or soy sauce. Cook at low heat for about 15 minutes. You may also add a bit of the beef stock and cook at medium heat until the liquid is reduced. Before cooking, let the beans soak for a maximum of 12 hours and a minimum of 5 hours. Remember, do this the night before. In the same pot they have been soaking, if you soaked in a pot, add the bell pepper and cook at medium heat, covered for about an hour and a half or until they become soft. In a different pan, make the sofrito by frying the onion, the sweet peppers, and the garlic with the oil until they turn brown, about 5 minutes. Add the cumin, stir, and remove from the heat. Add the sofrito to the pot where the black beans are cooking and reduce the heat. Let this cook for another 10 minutes, or until the liquid has almost completely evaporated, depending on if you will be serving them as a side or as a soup. However, it is recommended to leave a bit of water so they taste better. To a large enough pot, add the salt, oil, garlic, onion, bell peppers, and rice. Stir fry all the ingredients on high heat, and then as they brown, add the water. Bring to a boil, and cook until the water has almost completely evaporated. Turn the heat to low, cover, and cook for about 15 minutes until the rice is soft, dry, and loose. Remove the pot from the heat and remove all the big pieces of onion and bell peppers. Serve with butter on top. Pour the vegetable oil in a large enough pan and turn on the stove to medium heat so the oil starts heating up while you prepare the plantains. Cut the plantain in half. You can make a straight down the middle kind of cut, or you can make slanted cuts that have more oval-like tejada shapes. Now make about 4 slices out of each side of the plantain by slicing them sideways to form slices of about 1/4 to 3/4 inch thick. Don't make them thicker than that. Lay the plantains on the frying pan and begin to fry them until they are golden brown, turning them if necessary, to fry both sides equally. Generally, it takes about 2 minutes per side. Remove the tajadas from the pan one by one and lay on top of a paper towel to remove the excess oil. Plate the rice, top with the butter, and a sprig of cilantro if you like. Place the beans alongside, and place the meat in the center. Plate the plantains along the side, serve and enjoy. How did that turn out? Well, it was indeed delicious. It was a lot of different components, so let's get started with the plantains. That was simple, basic. I did have the oil a little too hot, as is my want, which I tend to screw up a lot that way. It wasn't completely burnt, but you know, just a little. So make sure you don't have the oil too hot, but that was really good. And then the black beans were super delicious. The sofrito gave it a nice flavor to it, and the white rice with the sofrito as well gave it additional flavor put together. Really, really great. As for the carne mechada, that was wonderful. If I had a complaint, it would be directed at me because I just kind of shredded it, pulled it apart, which made it hard to integrate in the different peppers and onions in it. I should have probably like chopped it up more, but in any case, it was really tasty. It was really good. Be sure to season it really well. That soy sauce did give it a certain amount of flavor, but not really kind of as much as I would have hoped for, and that was probably because when I was cooking it, I let it reduce down too much. I didn't check the pot and the water had evaporated and put the water back in, but that let the meat dry out a little bit, which was kind of a shame. In retrospect though, I really enjoyed it, and I'm gonna give that one 4 out of 5 globes. A little tip, now this is not part of the recipe. Again, these aren't my original recipes. They're all linked in the about section, and if you have any issues, you can talk to the original authors about them there. But after, when I made my leftovers, I did manage to serve it with something which is very, very, very not traditional, but I served it with fish sauce on top, and that really was incredible. I know it's not in any way, shape, or form Venezuelan, but it was a really great combination, so if you feel like doing that, knock yourself out. Just don't tell anyone. That does it for Venezuela, does it for all of Latin America. Next week, we head back to Southeast Asia to have the food of Vietnam. See you then. These are not my original recipes. Links to the original recipes and their authors can be found in the About section. If you have any thoughtful feelings or helpful suggestions about what I'm doing, feel free to sound off in the comments here. If you like what you see, like, subscribe, hit that bell to be notified when these videos are posted, and of course you can always follow us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest. Thanks for coming by. See you next time. Happy eating.